There is a moment every night when your kidneys are doing some of their quietest and most important work, and most people never think about it. You are asleep. The house is dark. Your heart rate has slowed. Your blood pressure is supposed to settle. And all through those hours, your kidneys are still filtering your blood, balancing fluid, regulating minerals, and deciding what your body keeps and what it lets go. What you drink before bed can either support that process or work directly against it. And the uncomfortable truth is that a lot of the drinks people assume are healthy at night are not especially kind to the kidneys. Some raise sugar load, some increase nighttime urination, some add potassium or phosphorus that certain kidneys do not handle well, and some simply create the illusion of helping while doing almost nothing useful at all. Tonight, I want to walk you through the single best drink before bed for most people who want to support healthy kidneys, why it beats the trendy alternatives, and the one catch that matters more than the drink itself. Because if you miss that catch, even the right drink can become the wrong habit. And stay with me to the end, because I'm also going to tell you who should not follow this advice the way it is usually given. That group matters more than most videos admit. If your kidneys are already impaired, or you're waking up multiple times a night to urinate, the bedtime advice that helps one person can frustrate another. If this kind of real-sourced, physiology-based explanation is useful to you, subscribe and tell me in the comments what your usual evening drink is. Water, tea, juice, something else. I read those because the pattern is often revealing. Now let's start with the part almost nobody explains well enough, how your kidneys actually work overnight. Your kidneys are not just filters. That word is too simple for what they really do. Yes, they remove waste from the blood. Yes, they help produce urine, but they are also regulators. They help control blood pressure. They help balance sodium, potassium, and acid levels. They influence fluid volume. They participate in hormone systems that affect circulation and red blood cell production. And they do this continuously, not in shifts, not only after meals, and definitely not only when you are awake. National Kidney Foundation. For most healthy adults, the kidneys respond to the body's fluid status with remarkable precision. If you are a little dry, they conserve more water. If you have extra, they allow more to leave through urine. If your blood pressure drops or your circulation changes, they adjust. That's part of what makes them so extraordinary. They are constantly reading the internal environment and quietly recalibrating it. Water is central to this process. The National Kidney Foundation explains it simply. Water helps the kidneys remove waste through urine, and it also helps blood vessels stay open so blood can move nutrients to the kidneys themselves. When dehydration becomes significant, that delivery system starts to break down. Blood and nutrients do not reach the kidneys as effectively, and severe dehydration can lead to kidney damage. National Kidney Foundation. That is the first thing to understand before we talk about any bedtime drink. Your kidneys do not need gimmicks. They need the conditions that let them do their job well. Good circulation, adequate hydration, stable blood pressure, reasonable mineral balance, low inflammatory burden, and uninterrupted sleep helps more than people realize. That sleep piece matters. Observational research has linked shorter sleep duration with faster decline in kidney function over time. That does not prove poor sleep directly causes kidney damage in every case, but it tells us something important. The nighttime environment matters. If your bedtime routine repeatedly disrupts sleep, blood pressure patterns, or fluid balance, that is not a minor detail. It is part of kidney health. PMC, the hydration paradox, almost every bedtime video gets wrong. Here is the tension. Your kidneys need hydration, but that does not mean more fluid at bedtime is always better. This is where many people get confused. They hear that water is good for the kidneys, which is true. They hear that dehydration can contribute to kidney injury, kidney stones, and urinary problems, which is also true. Then, they make the leap that a large glass of fluid right before sleep must be a kidney protective habit. Sometimes it is not. If you drink too much too close to bed, the result may be repeated wake-ups to urinate, what clinicians call nocturia, and nocturia is not just annoying. It fragments sleep, increases fall risk in older adults, and can become part of a cycle where people are never fully rested. The Urology Care Foundation specifically notes that drinking Too much fluid before bedtime, especially caffeine or alcohol, is a known lifestyle cause of nocturia. Their advice is very practical. Stay well hydrated during the day, but limit fluids to 2 to 4 hours before sleep if nighttime urination is a problem. Urology Care Foundation. So now we have the real question. If your goal is to support healthy kidneys before bed, what drink gives you support without creating the kind of nighttime disruption that works against the rest of your physiology? And the answer, for most people with otherwise healthy kidneys, is surprisingly unglamorous. The best drink before bed for healthy kidneys, the best drink before bed for most people is plain water. Not detox tea, not cranberry cocktail, not a kidney cleanse, not sports drink, not cola, not a high-protein shake. Not a sweet and durable blend in a bottle with wellness branding, plain water. And the reason plain water wins is not because it is exciting. It wins because it solves the real problem without creating unnecessary new ones. It hydrates without added sugar. It hydrates without caffeine. It hydrates without alcohol. It hydrates without phosphorus additives, artificial colors, or concentrated sweeteners. It does the exact thing kidneys need most directly. It supports circulation and waste removal without forcing your body to process a lot of extra baggage. National Kidney Foundation. The National Kidney Foundation is unusually direct on this point. In its guidance on kidney-friendly drinks, it says water is, without a doubt, the best choice for kidney health. That is not because every other drink is harmful. It is because water gives the benefit with the fewest trade-offs. National Kidney Foundation. If you want one sentence that captures the whole video, it is this. The healthiest bedtime kidney drink is the one that gives you enough fluid to avoid going into the night dry without giving you so much or so many extra substances that your sleep and fluid balance get worse. That is why the answer is water. But the drink is only half the answer. Here comes the catch. The most important part is not only what you drink, it is how much and when. Because a small amount of plain water and a giant insulated tumbler of plain water are not the same bedtime habit. One may support hydration, the other may have you awake at, and in the morning, wondering why you feel exhausted the next day. This is where people tend to oversimplify kidney advice. There is no universal 8 glasses a day rule that automatically becomes correct for everyone. The National Kidney Foundation is explicit that hydration needs vary by age, body size, climate, exercise, illness, pregnancy, and kidney status. In other words, water is the best type of drink, but the right amount depends on the person. National Kidney Foundation. For a generally healthy person, the best bedtime use of water is usually a modest amount, enough that you are not going to sleep thirsty, dry, or underhydrated. Not so much that you are loading the bladder right before lights out. In practice, for many people, that means a small glass sipped calmly, not a large bottle chugged right before bed. The exact size is less important than the principle. You are topping off hydration, not testing your kidneys. If you are someone who already wakes once or more every night to urinate, the best move may be to shift more of your hydration earlier in the day rather than trying to fix it with a larger bedtime drink. That is a subtle distinction, but it matters. Why water beats the healthy competitors? Let's compare water to the bedtime drinks people most often assume are better. 1. Juice sounds healthy because it comes from fruit. But physiologically, it can be a very different thing. Many juices carry a substantial sugar load. Even when they are unsweetened, they can still deliver a lot of natural sugar quickly because the fiber of the whole fruit is gone. The National Kidney Foundation does say unsweetened fruit juice can fit into healthy hydration for many people, and it specifically warns that store-bought juices are often loaded with added sugar and additives. That is a major distinction. The label matters. Unsweetened is different from sweetened. Moderate is different from large. National Kidney Foundation. But even when juice is allowed, that does not make it the best bedtime kidney drink. Water gives the hydration without the sugar burden. For someone concerned about kidney health, blood sugar stability matters, especially because diabetes is one of the leading drivers of kidney disease. A bedtime drink that spikes total sugar intake is simply not as clean a choice as plain water. 2. Cranberry juice. Cranberry has a very strong reputation in the public imagination. People hear cranberry and think urinary tract protection. There is some truth in that reputation, but it is often exaggerated and misapplied. Cranberry products may help reduce the risk of recurrent urinary tract infections in some people, but that does not make cranberry juice the best bedtime kidney drink. The biggest problem is practical. Most cranberry drinks people buy are not unsweetened, and many are essentially sugar delivery systems with a healthy halo around them. The National Kidney Foundation warns against sugary drinks generally and recommends reading labels carefully. Water does not create that problem in the first place, National Kidney Foundation. So cranberry may have a narrow role in certain contexts, but as the best nightly kidney-supporting drink for the average person? No, it loses to water on simplicity, metabolic cleanliness, and consistency. 3. Tart cherry juice. This is one people often expect me to choose. Tart cherry juice gets attention because it has been studied for sleep, and a couple of small studies in older adults with insomnia found modest benefits, especially for insomnia severity, and wake time after sleep onset. But two things matter here. First, the evidence is modest, not overwhelming. Second, those studies are about sleep, not kidney function. That is not the same question. Tart cherry juice might be interesting for some people as a sleep-related experiment, but the research is not strong enough to call it the best kidney bedtime drink. PMC. This is one of the most important distinctions in all of preventive medicine. A drink can sound healthy, can have one interesting property, and still not be the best overall answer for the specific organ system you are trying to support for tea. Tea depends on the type. Herbal tea without caffeine may be perfectly reasonable for many people, but once again, reasonable is not the same thing as best. Some teas contain caffeine, some people add sweeteners, some bedtime teas are consumed in large mugs, which is really just another way of increasing nighttime fluid load. If you love caffeine-free herbal tea and it helps you wind down, fine. But when we strip the question down to pure kidney support before sleep, plain water still wins because it does the job with fewer variables. 5. Milk and plant milks. These can absolutely have a place in a healthy diet, but milk is not automatically kidney simple, especially for people with kidney disease. The National Kidney Foundation notes that dairy milk may need to be limited in CKD because phosphorus and potassium can build up. Plant milks vary widely by brand and ingredient list, and some contain added phosphorus or more potassium than people realize. National Kidney Foundation. That means milk and milk alternatives are nutrition questions. Water is a hydration question. For bedtime kidney support, hydration is the cleaner target. 6. Sports drinks and electrolyte drinks. These are massively overused. Most people reaching for one at night have not lost enough fluid or electrolytes to need it. Many of these drinks add sodium, sugar, colorants, or potassium without a real clinical reason. If you just finished an endurance event in the heat, that is one conversation. If you're sitting on the couch at end, assuming the word electrolyte means kidney protection, that is a marketing victory, not a medical one. 7. Alcohol. Alcohol is one of the worst bedtime choices if kidney support is the goal. The National Kidney Foundation points out that too much alcohol can dehydrate the body and force the kidneys to work harder. It can also contribute to high blood pressure and other long-term problems that are tightly linked to kidney damage. National Kidney Foundation. A drink that dehydrates you and disrupts sleep is not a kidney-supportive bedtime drink. 8. Soda and sweetened drinks. This one deserves blunt language. If you care about your kidneys, bedtime soda is a bad habit to normalize. Dark cola has been associated with higher kidney disease risk in observational research, though that evidence does not prove causation, and more recent large observational data have linked higher intake of sugar-sweetened and artificially sweetened beverages with increased risk of developing chronic kidney disease. The key phrase is associated with, not proven to cause, but the direction of the evidence is not encouraging. PMC JAMA Network Open. If your goal is kidney support, this is not where you want to gamble. Why water matters so much for stones and urinary stress. There is another reason water deserves the top position, and it has to do with one of the most common kidney problems outside chronic kidney disease itself: kidney stones. The National Kidney Foundation explains that kidney stones form less easily when there is enough water to keep stone-forming crystals from sticking together in urine. In plain English, concentrated urine is a friend to stone formation. Diluted urine is not. National Kidney Foundation. That does not mean a huge bedtime water load is the secret to never getting a stone again. Hydration across the entire day matters far more than a single nighttime drink. But it does mean that going into every night chronically underhydrated is not doing your kidneys any favors. The same logic applies to urinary infections. Water helps the body produce urine, and that urine flow helps flush bacteria out of the urinary tract. Again, not as a miracle cure, not as a replacement for medical treatment, but as basic physiology. National Kidney Foundation, this is why water keeps winning the argument. It helps with the most fundamental mechanics of kidney health without making a show of itself. The mistake people make after hearing water is best. The most common mistake is immediately turning simple advice into extreme advice. They hear water is the best drink, and suddenly they are trying to force large amounts late at night because they imagine more equals cleaner kidneys. It does not work that way. A randomized clinical trial in adults with stage 3 chronic kidney disease tested whether coaching patients to increase water intake would slow kidney function decline. It increased urine volume, yes, but it did not significantly slow decline in egg for over 1 year compared with usual intake. The takeaway is not that water is useless. The takeaway is that flooding the body with extra water is not some magical override switch for kidney disease. PubMed. That is a powerful corrective. Water is necessary. Overdrinking is not automatically therapeutic. And for some people, especially those already dealing with frequent nighttime urination, it can make life worse. The right mindset is support, not force. The best bedtime strategy is usually built during the day. Here is something I wish more people understood. The best bedtime kidney drink is often determined by what happened in the 10 hours before bedtime. If you spent the day underhydrated, had several caffeinated drinks, ate a very salty dinner, and then tried to fix all of it with a giant bedtime glass of water, you are not really supporting your kidneys. You are compensating late. And the body notices. High salt intake can increase nighttime urine production in some people because the body still has to excrete that salt. Reviews of nocturia emphasize that evening fluid habits and salt patterns matter. This is one reason some people feel as if water itself is the problem, when the real issue is the combination of late fluids, high sodium intake, and underlying bladder or kidney factors, PMC. So the stronger plan is this: hydrate well during the day, keep evening sodium reasonable, avoid alcohol and caffeine late, and use a modest amount of plain water before bed only if you need it. That sounds less dramatic than a miracle drink. It is also much closer to how physiology actually works, what the right amount tends to look like. Let me make this practical. If you are healthy, not on fluid restriction, and not someone who struggles with waking repeatedly to urinate, a small glass of water before bed is usually a very reasonable habit. Not mandatory, reasonable. If you are thirsty at bedtime, that is a clue. If your mouth is dry, if the room is warm, if you exercised late, if you drank alcohol earlier, if you were outdoors in the heat, a modest bedtime glass of water may be exactly the right move. But if you are already waking multiple times a night to urinate, or if you dread the moment you lie down because you know your bladder will have other plans, the answer is not usually drink more right before bed. The answer is often move more of your fluid earlier and reduce the late evening load. The Urology Care Foundation's advice to limit fluid intake to 4 hours before sleep is especially relevant in that group. Urology Care Foundation. In other words, the same drink can be helpful in one timing pattern and unhelpful in another. Who needs to be careful with this advice? This is the section I told you to stay for, because this is where a lot of generic wellness advice becomes dangerous. If you have advanced chronic kidney disease, kidney failure, or you are on dialysis, the best bedtime drink may not be a glass of water. It may be a smaller amount than that. In some cases, it may be no additional fluid at all, depending on what your medical team has prescribed. The National Kidney Foundation and NIDC are both clear here. People with advanced CKD may need to limit fluids because damaged kidneys can no longer remove extra liquid efficiently. That extra fluid can build up and contribute to swelling, shortness of breath, high blood pressure, and stress on the heart. National Kidney Foundation. NIDC. So if you are stage 4 or 5 on dialysis or have been told to count fluids, you should not take generalized hydration advice from the internet and apply it blindly at PM. Your kidneys are not playing by the same rules as someone with normal kidney function. The same caution applies if you have heart failure, severe edema, or a doctor has specifically told you to restrict fluids. In those cases, the cleanest answer is not water is best. The cleanest answer is follow your fluid prescription. There is another group that needs nuance, people with potassium restrictions or phosphorus concerns. Water avoids those issues almost entirely. Many alternative drinks do not. That is one more reason water remains the safest general recommendation while customized care remains essential for people with established disease. The nighttime. Drinks that quietly work against kidneys. Since we're being practical, let me tell you what tends to create the most kidneyan-friendly bedtime pattern. A sweet drink with dinner, a salty snack afterward, alcohol or caffeinated tea late, then a large glass of water right before sleep to be healthy. That pattern looks harmless. It is not ideal. The sugar may worsen metabolic stress. The salt may increase thirst and nighttime urine production. The alcohol may dehydrate and fragment sleep. The late fluid load may push nocturia. Then the next morning, the person feels unrested and often reaches for more caffeine, which can continue the cycle. Kidney stress rarely announces itself in one dramatic moment. More often it builds through ordinary patterns repeated for years. That is why the boring answer is so often the best answer in medicine, because boring usually means biologically efficient. A patient story that explains this better than any rule. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call David. Late 60s, mildly reduced kidney function, blood pressure under decent control, not on dialysis, not in advanced failure. His big complaint was simple. He was waking up 2 or 3 times a night to urinate, and he was convinced the solution was to drink more healthy liquids in the evening because he had read that hydration protects the kidneys. When we went through the routine carefully, the pattern looked like this: very little water during the day, coffee in the morning, another caffeinated drink in the afternoon, salty dinner, sometimes a glass of wine, then a large mug of herbal tea and a big bottle of water because he wanted to flush the kidneys before bed. On paper, he felt like he was doing something protective. In reality, he was compressing most of his hydration into the worst possible window for his sleep. We didn't need a miracle. We needed redistribution, more water earlier in the day, less sodium at dinner, no alcohol on the nights his sleep was already fragile, a smaller amount of plain water near bedtime only if he was actually thirsty, and we cut the performative flush. Within a few weeks, his nighttime wake-ups dropped. He felt better rested. His blood pressure readings improved slightly in the morning, and maybe most importantly, he stopped treating the kidneys as if they needed to be blasted with fluid on command. They needed consistency. That is the real lesson here. Kidney support is much more about pattern than drama, so why not no drink at all? Some people hear all this and decide the ideal bedtime kidney strategy must be complete fluid avoidance at night. Not necessarily. If you are genuinely thirsty before bed, ignoring thirst is not heroic. If you exercised, spent time in hot weather, or had a dry evening environment, a small amount of water may be exactly what your body needs. The goal is not deprivation. The goal is balance. Going to sleep mildly dehydrated every night is not a kidney health strategy. It may concentrate urine, worsen comfort, and for some people increase the risk environment for stones or urinary irritation over time. National Kidney Foundation, this is why I keep coming back to that phrase. Enough but not excessive. What about lemon water? This question always comes up, especially from people worried about kidney stones. Lemon water is often discussed because citrate can help reduce risk for certain stones, and there is real logic there in stone prevention. But even then, the main benefit still comes from the water component and the overall hydration pattern. Lemon water can be fine for some people. It is not automatically superior to plain water at bedtime, and it is not necessary for everybody. If you like it and it helps you drink water without adding sugar, fair enough. But I would not place it above plain water as the best all-purpose bedtime kidney drink. What about people who hate plain water? Then make plain water easier to tolerate without turning it into dessert. The National Kidney Foundation suggests infusing water with fruit, herbs, or spices if plain water feels boring. That can be a smart compromise for some people because it preserves the main advantage of water while improving adherence. National Kidney Foundation. But be careful not to let infused become sweetened. There is a big difference between a slice of cucumber or a wedge of lemon in water and a bottle that happens to have the word water on the front while functioning like juice. The role of urine color and thirst. People often want a perfect formula for hydration, but the body does offer clues. The National Kidney Foundation notes that for the average person, healthy hydration often means drinking enough fluids to quench thirst and produce light yellow or colorless urine. Dark yellow urine can be a sign of dehydration. National Kidney Foundation. That does not mean you should obsess over every bathroom trip. It means you can use simple signals to decide whether a small bedtime glass of water is sensible or whether your real problem is a poorly timed hydration pattern throughout the day, when nighttime urination is the real issue. If you are waking more than once a night to urinate on a regular basis, do not assume the solution is just to stop drinking water. Nocturia can be related to many things: bladder issues, sleep disorders, diabetes, medication timing, salt intake, prostate enlargement, chronic kidney disease, and more. Reviews of nocturia make clear that it is often multifactorial (PMC). That matters because sometimes people blame the bedtime sip when the real problem is elsewhere. In one person, late fluid is the main trigger. In another, it is untreated sleep apnea, uncontrolled diabetes, or an enlarged prostate. So if the problem is frequent and persistent, it is worth evaluating, not just improvising the clean bedtime kidney routine. Let me give you the simplest routine that makes physiological sense for most healthy adults. Through the day, hydrate consistently instead of in bursts. Don't wait until late evening to realize you've barely had water. Keep caffeine earlier. Be cautious with alcohol at night. Avoid sugary drinks as a standard evening habit. Keep dinner sodium under control so thirst and nighttime urine production are less likely to spike. Then, if you are thirsty before bed and not on a fluid restriction, have a small glass of plain water. That is it. No powders, no cleanses, no kidney detox promise, no expensive bedtime ritual disguised as medicine. Why the boring answer is often the most protective answer. I know this is less exciting than naming some exotic antioxidant beverage, but medicine is full of situations where the unglamorous answer survives because it keeps proving itself. Water remains the best bedtime kidney drink because it is the lowest friction way to support what kidneys already know how to do. It does not ask the body to metabolize extra sugar. It does not rely on uncertain claims. It does not pretend sleep research is kidney research. It does not hide behind packaging. It simply supports hydration. And when you are dealing with organs that work every minute of every day, that kind of reliability matters. The exact people who should pause before changing anything. Before I give you the action plan, let me restate the caution clearly. Talk to your care team before increasing bedtime fluids if you have stage 4 or 5 chronic kidney disease. You are on dialysis. You have been told to restrict fluids. You have swelling, heart failure, or shortness of breath. You wake repeatedly at night to urinate, or your blood potassium or phosphorus has been running high. In those situations, even a healthy-sounding bedtime habit needs to fit your actual lab numbers and fluid prescription, not a general internet rule, "Nid what to do tonight." So let's make this simple. If your kidneys are generally healthy and you are not on a fluid restriction, the best drink before bed to support healthy kidneys is a small glass of plain water. Not because it is trendy, because it gives your kidneys what they need most directly, without the sugar, caffeine, alcohol, additives, or mineral complications that often come with the alternatives. If you are thirsty at bedtime, drink a modest amount. If you are waking up all night to urinate, shift more of your hydration earlier in the day and reduce late evening fluid instead of forcing more water before sleep. If you have advanced kidney disease or have been prescribed fluid limits, do not use this advice without checking your personal plan. Final takeaway: the kidneys do not need to be tricked, they need to be supported. And most of the time, support is not dramatic. It looks like enough water, not too little and not too much. It looks like better timing. It looks like fewer sugary drinks, less late alcohol, less bedtime caffeine, and less faith in products that promise more than physiology can deliver. The best bedtime kidney drink is plain water. The catch is that it only works best when the dose and timing make sense for your body. That is what real kidney care looks like. Not hype, not fear, not extremes, just the right habit, repeated often enough to matter. If you want, I can also turn this into a full 45-minute extended version in the exact same voice, with added sections on kidney stones, nocturia, blood pressure rhythms, CKD fluid limits, and a longer myth-busting chapter on tea, lemon water, cranberry, tart cherry, and electrolyte drinks.